All right, I'm now joined by a very, very special longtime friend, recurring guest, friend of the podcast, Philadelphia Phillies reliever Matt Strahm, joining us from Miami, Florida. Matt, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You're the man. How's everything going down there?
Everything's good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I wanted to start with we're doing this in September. I wanted to start with this time of year in baseball. As a player, like how is playing in September different from the rest? Is it like by the time you get to this month, is your body like, are you dealing with nagging injuries? How do you kind of play through the month of September?
Yeah, I think what kind of team you're on kind of helps with that body nagginess, just because like I've been on rebuild teams in San Diego where we know we're playing up until the last game just because of where we sit in the rankings and everything, and your body aches a little more when you're playing for the finish line versus the playoffs. So it's got a little different feel when you're in the hunt and these games matter. So that definitely helps take some aches and pains away.
I can't remember who was on here talking about that, but I think he said like the Dodgers always like walk into the playoffs like the last month of the year. They're always playing like they're not having to fight for their lives every single night. Have you been
Yeah.
on teams like that? And then have you been on the inverse of like you said, like teams that like every single game it's like live or die every single night in the month of September?
Yeah, so I've never been on a team like this Phillies team. Like even like still home field advantage is very important. So especially for us with Citizens Bank Park and how crazy it can get. So home field advantage is huge. So we still aren't like we haven't checked the box we want to check yet, so to speak. So we're still playing for that. I've never had the luxury of like what you say, the Dodgers. They know September we just need to get there healthy kind of thing. I've never had that in my career. And but I have been, like I said, I've been on a rebuild team in San Diego where we knew we were done on the last game, and it's just a different September feel than these last 2 years for me here in Philly.
Hasn't it changed too with like the September call ups rule? I can't remember how long
Yeah.
ago it's been since this, but like, what was it like playing in the era of expanded roster September? You're playing with like a bunch of minor league guys coming up trying to like do their thing. How crazy was that?
Yeah, no, I'm honestly I thought it was great just because you got a lot more guys experience. And I mean, I get the pace of play. You had guys that were doing left, right, left pitching changes in an inning, but now that we got the three batter minimum, that can't happen. So, I enjoyed it, and like I said, it gave the extra 5 to 8 guys on your roster that big league experience, and I'm always for the players, and that gets the players more service and more pay. So. I liked that, but it's a little different now. You just get the one extra pitcher, one extra position player, but I mean, any extra help is always good in September.
What's the training room like this time of year? I feel like everybody's probably getting something worked on before the game. Is it just full right now?
Yeah, I mean, you have your guys throughout the year that stick to their routine and do their thing, and then you have guys that are just gamers and they just show up and play ball. But I mean, here in September, it's yeah, the traffic in the training room picks up a little bit. Guys taking care of a few areas that are dinged up, and like I said, it's very important for us here in Philly, especially to make sure we're healthy for that postseason.
I love it. So we talked about Philly before. It's just this like tough, gritty place. In your
Yeah.
second year there, has that like tough grittiness, has that kind of seeped into who you are, or has it brought out more of the inner competitor in you playing in Philadelphia?
I think I've just found my fit. Being a junior college guy, I've kind of always matched that way of the game. So, yeah, I don't think it's changed me. I just think I'm comfortable.
I've seen clips on Twitter. The Phillies fans, they love it when you're like, you're not backing down, you're going at guys, you're staring them down. It's like the coolest thing ever. People are always just like, I would die for Matt Strom, which is so funny. Um, what's your relationship like with the Philly faithful? Especially, we can even start on the internet wise, and even just like living there, being there.
I just think their passion for sports just matches my personality of you're only as good as your last outing. So that kind of that fits me, and I don't suck again. So yeah, it fits who I am and how I was raised. I guess I was raised in a very competitive family.
Do you like them keeping you accountable part? I feel like that's like they'll tell you when you're not doing great, but they're also like lift you up when you need it. It's a
That
cool environment, like you said, playing for the Philadelphia people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we are entertainment and we get paid a pretty penny for them to ride or die on every pitch with us. So I get it. Obviously, there's a line that you should never cross. I'm not saying I know what that line is, or I'm not gonna put the line in the sand for anyone. But I mean, it's sports, and I mean, so that's to some, it's life. So it's I get it. But like I said, it's there's a line in the sand somewhere, and Philly does a great job of getting to the line.
So I think the last time we talked, I think I asked like, have you gotten a chance to like explore the city and just like ingratiate yourself? Has that kind of slowly gone on more and more as you've played there more and more? Like, have you gotten a chance to like, I don't know, really feel connected to the people that you're playing for?
I live outside the city. My first 7 seasons in the big leagues, my wife and I, we did the city living, lived in apartments close to the stadiums. Getting older, families getting bigger. We live outside the city now, but the area we found, we love it. It's I mean, we didn't even go home last off season. We just stayed up there in Philly. So it was we love the area, we love the people around us, and I mean, yeah, now just got to win there.
Yeah, no doubt. So the Phillies, they have so many incredible pitchers on that team. They have the fourth best team at ERA in baseball. There was five pitchers that went to the All Star game with you, or four counting you. Being around that many talented arms and coaches and everything else in that environment, like, have you learned a ton about your game being around that many talented guys? Like, I imagine the conversations, especially in the bullpen, must be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and also our pitching coaches here, they're great with the seam shifting, pitch design, and stuff like that. It's obviously the All-Star game, the amount of talent that was in that locker room is unmatched. But just looking around this locker room every day, being able to come to work and just seeing the guys that put on the Phillies uniform, it's something special right now. And I mean, I really hope none of these Phillies fans take that for granted, regardless the outcome of the next few seasons, because what they have here and in the players they have, it's something special for sure.
Are your teammates? Do you guys sit and talk about like pitching mechanics, like tinkering with your stuff? Like, do you ever just like pick the brains of the guys around you?
Um, I'm so I'm so unique in how I throw. I'm I got knees and elbows going everywhere when I throw that. When I talk pitching with guys, it's more so just grips. I just want to know how they're gripping the ball and what they want it to doing coming out of their hand. Um, because I mean, if you watch my back leg, everyone always asks, "How is my back leg get down so far?" Like I'll scrape my drive knee on the mound sometimes, and like my pitching mechanics aren't. I don't think anyone's teaching them anywhere. But so yeah, when I'm talking with these guys, it's mostly just about their grips, where they're holding the ball, and what they're trying to feel when it comes out of their hand. But we have such a talented team and such an experienced team that most of our learning is just watching each other.
Yeah. And also, I think you've said in the past that like you're not like you're not a scouting report guy. You go off of feel. So
Yeah.
like, I'm sure having like guys to like talk around and shoot ideas around about that kind of stuff must help too.
Yeah, I mean it's and also like I'm very fortunate in the catchers I've had. JT and Stubby do an unbelievable job with their scouting reports and just mixing and matching our pitches to the batter. I've yet to shake them all year. I don't like thinking either when I'm pitching. Like I want to have as much conviction behind every pitch as I can. So when JT hits a button and it plays through my pitch com in my hat, it's just fully focused on whatever came through that, and that's what I'm going to try to execute.
How rare is that in baseball to never have shaken your catcher off to just have full complete trust in them? Is that common or is that unique to Philadelphia, you think?
Uh, I would say there's definitely pitchers out there that don't shake just because they don't like it's just sometimes for some guys, it's a thinking thing. Like I know with other catchers, I've always gone to the rubber and I only throw 3 pitches. So if I put 2 of them in my head, there's a good chance that it's going to be one of those two. So I've been very fortunate with the catchers I've had in my career, and they've allowed me to not think. And I mean, I definitely owe a lot of my success to those guys because, like I said, I just follow the script they put in front of me. I joke with them sometimes. I'm like, you play MLB The Show? Okay, just pretend you're doing that. Send me square, triangle, or X, whichever one you want. I'll do it.
It's like Anchorman where you're just like reading the teleprompter, not even thinking. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Who
it's
put the
just
question mark on the top?
I'm Ron Burgundy. Um, I had a question about your teammate in the bullpen down there in Philadelphia, Jeff Hoffman. I didn't know a ton about him, but
Yeah.
I was reading about his story, pitching in Colorado as long as he did, and now obviously what he's doing in Philadelphia. What's your guys' relationship like? And like, what is it about Jeff Hoffman you think that makes him one of the most dominant arms in the game?
Yeah, I'd say Jeff and I have gotten pretty close over the last couple of years. He's an unbelievable human. He's and like you said, don't know much about him, but a lot of people are going to know him after this offseason. He's put himself in a very good position to set him and his family up for a good offseason here. But the guy, talk about turning your career around, going from a starter to, I mean, he's an elite closer is what he is now. So he's yeah, it's something special to watch. And I mean, it's he jokes all the time about I should have probably done this earlier in my career. Should have been a reliever earlier. And so I think he spent 5 or 6 years trying to start. So no, it's been fun to watch this thing. And I mean him and I have been catch partners now for year and a half. It was really cool to go to the All-Star game together. We joked with all the other relievers, like, you didn't bring your catch partner? Brought mine. So it's good. But no, he's having an unbelievable year. And like I said, I'm so happy the way he's turned his career around.
I always hear that when pitchers play catch with each other, like you guys are just ripping balls at each other at like full speed. Is it dangerous playing catch with another pitcher?
Yeah. So I feel fairly confident when I'm playing catch with a right-handed pitcher because I am left-handed. So most like if you think about like a fastball, usually most fastballs have arm side ride. So with Jeff throwing to me as a righty, it's going to ride away from my glove would be here, so it's going to ride away from me. So it's not ever going to really like thumb me or get me in the pocket. So I feel really comfortable playing catch with any right-hander. I played catch with Alvarado, and I quit playing catch with 7 throws in. I was like, Hector Rabago, who's our bullpen catcher, I was like, Bago, why don't you come over here and finish this? This is scary. So no, it's not too bad. A lot of us, I mean, I think Alvy's probably the only relief pitcher that doesn't play catch with someone, but none of us want to play catch with him because it's an uncomfortable game of catch with just how he delivers the ball. It's way over top. It's not that he's inaccurate when playing catch. He'll hit in the catch, you just see it.
I read an article about Jeff Hoffman, and did you guys have Navy SEALs come in to speak to you guys at some point? Because I think he mentioned he does like SEAL breathing. Um, and I was curious if that was like used elsewhere.
That might have been with one of his other teams that he had that. I haven't had that come in. And no, I don't do that. But I mean, like relievers have we're a broad spectrum. We do everything and anything.
Yeah. So how do you kind of find your center out there on the mound in big moments? Do you have breathing techniques? Do you have things that like focus you at all on the mound?
Uh, no, I would say like my tick out there. I'm sure everyone's seen it. I yell at myself a lot. I am very verbal in my displeasure with myself when I miss my spots or I just don't execute a pitch. It's kind of just my reset. Um, yeah, I let out a few curse words at myself and on to the next pitch. It is what it is, and it's just kind of my way of, like I said, just closing the book on that and going to the next pitch. Once it's out of me, It's good. Bohm he'll laugh at me sometimes from third base because when I do it, I turn to third a little bit and I let it out, and he'll just say, he's like, dude, you just have a blank stare in your eye, yelling at yourself. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It is what it is.
Everybody's unique in that way, I guess. Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
in the bullpen? Do you have like that moment where like the light switch flips and it's like, all right, it's go time? Because Pete Fairbanks comes on here and he's like, as soon as my hear my name, it's just like I'm a different person, which is insane.
Yeah. For guys like Fairbanks has had a role. He knows he's going to come into the ninth inning. He sees the game happening, and that all happens. In our bullpen, we more so play the matchups. So like you see it coming. But I like the adrenaline rush. Say I'm a bottle rocket out of the bullpen. Once you light my fuse, just let me go. So it's I don't I don't sit I don't know I don't want to yeah I just sit there and wait for the phone to ring for me, and when it does, go.
Do you like that feeling of kind of not necessarily? I mean, you might know like certain spots, but for the most part, it's kind of like, ooh, this might be it. This might not be it.
Yeah, it's not like I don't want to say panic, but like I like that adrenaline rush of in a hurry. Like I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
it's just your legs feel light and you just go.
Uh, so Hoffman pitched so long at Coors Field. I'm sure you've by now pitched at Coors Field a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me what that's like as a pitcher, and have you had to like adjust the way you throw baseballs at Coors Field? Because that place just seems crazy.
Yeah, I pitched there plenty playing in San Diego. It's it's just different. You can't find any moisture on yourself when you're out there. Like your mouth's dry, everything's dry. The altitude's so high, like it just you lick your finger and you go to wipe it on your pants and it's already dry. Like you can't get any tack, nothing. And then too, the ball like you feel like you spin it, it just never catches. It's like it's so thin of air, like it's just breaking through the air instead of like grabbing something. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like anytime I go there, I ditch my cutter. I'm like, I don't want to throw my cutter here. It's just going to be a BP fastball. And then I use my sweeper as a cutter. It's like, so, because my sweeper's not sweeping as much. So I go fastball sweeper and it's more so like a fastball cutter. But it's a tough place to pitch, especially if you are a two pitch guy, and don't spin it very well. If you're not a good spin efficiency guy, you're probably not going to be too good there. But it's definitely not a pitcher's paradise.
You did call it a sweeper. Have we changed? Have we evolved our position on is a sweeper a different pitch?
Yeah, it's no, it's just it's a slider sweeper. They're one and the same. Like back in the day, a big lefty curveball that was on an axis, they would call it a slurve. It's like,
I missed
so
that.
where'd the slurve go?
Yeah.
It's
Thought
like
about that
what was
before.
that? Yeah, slurve's gone. Just kind of like the black on home plate. Where'd that go? It's not there
Um,
anymore either.
I had some like nerdy pitching questions for you, and that's kind of one of them. Is like adding and subtracting pitches is something that I've
Yeah.
noticed you've done a little bit throughout your career. No more curveball, but I looked at like
Yeah.
it had good numbers. So like, do you ever
Yeah.
get like attached to like certain pitches because you've put all this time and effort in, and then now you're just not throwing it? I feel like I would just get emotionally like this. I love that thing. Why do I have to stop throwing it?
Yeah, mine's my changeup. I still throw it every day when I warm up. I will never get rid of it. I just
Can't
That's
quit.
something. Nah, I joke with the pitching coaches all the time here that I have to throw it for when I become a starter. I can't. I need it. So
Mhm.
when I'm a starter, I need my changeup. But actually, that's funny you asked that because yesterday I joked around too when I was throwing my flat ground. I was like, I can throw a splitter. And I threw a splitter, and it actually did what a splitter's supposed to do. So hopefully there's something there, and maybe I'll have 5 pitches here by the end of the year.
This is like the year of the splitter. That's all I read before the season started was like everybody in spring training is adding a splitter. Look how many splitters we have. It's like, is that where did that come from? Where did the splitter rise come from?
So I think it has a lot to do with what guys' fastballs are doing. A lot of guys now are chasing that fastball that rides. So you want something to go off of that. So like Kirby Yates is a great example. I think he's an unbelievable four seam at the top guy. And when he throws a splitter at the bottom, you have to cover from your knees to your belt. So he makes it very hard on hitters to commit to that fastball up because it's probably going under your barrel. So I mean, it's a good pitch to have, especially with the vertical. I'm not a pitching nerd here, so I don't know the correct terminology, but the vertical, the ride that everyone is chasing for these fastballs, the splitter just pairs well with it on when you're talking about tunneling and everything. It's a good pitch to have to go down. That's like the sweeper. Some of these guys throwing the sweeper with a four seam fastball just doesn't make sense to me. You'd think you'd want to pair a sweeper with a two seamer or a sinker, but I am one of those guys that throws a four seam with a sweeper. But my four seam, to be fair, has a lot of horizontal movement. So my sweeper is going this way and my four seam is going this way with ride. So they're going different directions on the same plane.
I like that you have to think it's like what pairs well with the other. It's like
Yeah,
wine. What
yeah.
in your opinion is some of the best pitch pairings that guys can do?
I think that the four seam with the splitter is really good. And then if you can have a horizontal slider, a sweeper, and a good two seam. Like I think Orion's doing a really good job right now with getting he's been a four seam sweeper guy and his sweeper is electric and it is elite. And he's been working on his two seam. And I think once he gets that and he has this 20 inches both ways, it's gonna be very hard to commit to one.
You ever mess around with a knuckleball? I feel like George Kirby will break out a knuckleball once a month and it's super fun.
Yeah, so I gave up on the knuckleball early, and I think it's probably because my brother threw me such a good one, and I could never throw him back one that I just quit trying. So it was like I've clanked plenty that my brother has thrown me. He's my catch partner in the off season, and the last throw every day he rips me a knuckleball. And there's been plenty of times where I've almost had to go on the IL after the knuckleball because it hits the thumb and
Like
shanks off. So I get how those catchers feel in San Diego catching what's his name,
Waldron.
Waldron. Yeah. So I get their pain because those things dance.
Does every pitcher go through a phase of trying to learn one?
Uh, I would imagine like every pitcher has messed around with it. I don't know how many serious guys have brought it into a game. We have a kid that we just called up, actually, Nick Nelson, who started throwing one in AAA this year. So I'm curious to see if he gets in there tonight and if he'll break it out.
Best. Yeah, I feel like slowly but surely we're starting to see more of these guys come up through the minors. So this stat is a little bit old. I think it's a couple months old, but there was like you were like a top three reliever in pitches in the strike zone.
Oh,
Which I didn't even know that was I think it's a fan graphs thing.
nice.
Um, is that a command thing? Is it a mindset thing to like be unafraid to fill the zone up with strikes? Because as a non-pitcher, I feel like I would be scared to death of like getting my shit like smacked all over the yard. Like I would just feel like
Yeah,
I would nibble and how do you get over that?
I think honestly, playing in the National League when pitchers had a hit helped me a lot because I stood in that box and I've I've seen, I guess I should say, I haven't seen how hard it is to hit because sometimes you can't see that baseball. It feels like, but it's hard to hit. It's hard to hit. Hitting a baseball is one of the hardest things to do on earth, and yeah, it's free bases are just they always seem to bite you in the butt. So at the end of the day, I mean, I got a taste of my own medicine the other day in Toronto. Fell 3-1 to Jimenez, and in my head, I said, just let him hit it as far as he can. Just throw it over the plate, and he hit it about 370 feet for a homer. So, it stung a little bit, but at the end of the day, I pride myself on just filling up the zone. I want to keep the guys behind me involved. I always feel too like if you have quick innings, that's usually when your offense comes in and scores. When you don't keep them out there just standing around doing nothing. So yeah, I just fill it up. Like I said, I've seen plenty of major leaguers take batting practice and they get themselves out 6 out of 10 times there too. So it's just throw it over the plate and more times than not, it should go in your favor.
I've always wondered this. When you throw an obvious ball, but the umpire calls it a strike, have you like perfected the acting of like acting like it was a strike? Because I feel like I would just be like as shocked as the batter is. I would have a bad poker face in that situation.
Yeah, I've definitely uh most of the time I try not to react either way just because like if I throw a close one that he balls me on, I don't want him thinking I'm showing him up or anything like that. I try not to do it. So even the other way, there's been times so like when I strike someone out, like I throw it and I kind of spin towards center field.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? And so there's been times where I've thrown a pitch knowing it's a ball, and then I like look at JT to throw it back, and the umpire rigs him up, and I just like slowly turn around. It's not like my normal fat, like my normal, but yeah, you kind of you gotta play with what they give you.
Is there a better feeling than getting somebody to swing out of their shoes?
Nah, I don't I don't think there's a better feeling than someone just taking the biggest hack of their life on your fastball and just missing under it. Like when you get that ball to just ride above the barrel, there's not much better feeling than that.
Yeah, I feel, or just like a really good slider away, but that's just like they can't even touch it. I feel like that as a pitcher, just be like, that rocks.
Yeah, see, we've talked about that. The sweeper, it almost feels like you stole something. Like when you just get them to chase something, you're like, haha, gotcha. But like when you challenge someone at the top of the zone over the plate, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, gotcha. Fair and square. That was me.
So you
That's
like it
the
like my best against his best, like fastball, come and get it.
Yeah, like that definitely gives you the more of like I'm him feeling than tricking him with a sweeper off the plate or something. Like it's don't get me wrong, I'll take either one of them. They're both going as a strikeout on the
Yeah.
back of my baseball card, so I'll take either one of them. But the fastball up definitely gets a little more gets the hair to stand up a little more on your neck.
I think, yeah, wasn't the final out of your save last night like a high heater?
Yeah, fastball up and in. Yep, yep.
I mean, to one to get a save and two to just like have, like you said, like that fastball up, get in, like
Yeah.
that must have been like the best.
Yeah, I don't think you can end a game a better way, in my opinion, as a pitcher.
So this is something I've been following for a little bit, and I think because I think the Astros are like one of the best teams in baseball at like swinging at the first pitch. I think they like swing at the most, and they also have the most like hits on the first pitch. As a pitcher, how do you combat when guys are going to like swing out of their shoes at the first pitch regardless? Like, do you have to like do things differently to like get around that, or how do you kind of approach first pitch?
Yeah, you obviously know who's aggressive early. And for me, I'm just um so with those guys, you can be a little more fine. Like I talk about, I just throw it over the plate. But with an aggressive guy like Altuve, we'll go with Houston, who you say swings at the first pitch a lot. Altuve, 0-0, I'm treating as 0-2. So like my fastball up to him is going to be a fastball out of the zone. So I'm going to risk falling behind 1-0 to him because I know how aggressive he is and it could work in my advantage if he goes for it. Yeah, I might fall behind 1-0, but I'm pretty confident in myself to I can throw three before four, so I'll figure it out. But it's those guys I'm more fine, I guess, with what I'm doing instead of just like here it is. Like guys who are patient, I'll just throw it at JT's golden glove emblem in the middle of his chest. Just throw it right there. But like a guy like Altuve who's going to be aggressive early, you take that at bat 0-2 all the way through.
Do you enjoy like the chess match of it all, like the working the counts, like certain pitches and certain counts? Because like I have to imagine like if you do fall behind 1-0, 2-0, and then coming back to get him, that has to be like a cool like challenge for you.
Yeah, those more so as a starter, I would say, and as a reliever, like yeah, you have your points in the game that you have to pitch, but as a starter, like I don't know, in the fourth or let's say you're in the fifth inning, middle of the lineup, guy hits a 2-out double with the 4 hole coming up. It's like okay, I can pitch around him here. like have the cat mouse game. I don't care if I walk him, first base is open, whatever. That's what I love about starting. But as a reliever, I'm trying to get in there and get out as quick as I can and throw as
Yeah.
few as pitches. Especially like last night, come in with a 3-run lead. I the first two guys can hit a home run before I absolutely have to lock it in. So it's like just attack over the middle of the zone. Like we have an unbelievable defense. We have great talent, and just let the guys play behind you and through 10 pitches. So should be available tonight. Like it's kind of the name of the game as a reliever is to get it done as quick as possible. So you don't really want to mess around. Like I said, you have your situations and you have your spots in the game, but more times than not, it's how quick can you get out of there?
That's a great point about starting versus relieving because you, as a starter, you can like maybe work on some stuff. You can kind of like experiment, see like maybe this will work tonight, or see if I have this tonight. But as a reliever, yeah, I guess you're right. You do have less margin of error to be like you kind of have to be on your game.
Yeah, like even like you said, like a starter could try some things, see what's working for him that night. When you're warming up in the bullpen, you have to determine really quick if you have your what breaking ball you have that night, what fastball you have that night. Is glove side my strength, arms like you have to. There's a lot to figure out quick, and you just have to go with your instinct and trust it.
I was listening to Paul Skeens was doing an interview where he was talking about like the day he threw his no hitter or almost no hitter, that he woke up feeling like crap. And he says like the days I wake up feeling like crap are some of my better days pitching. Is that the case? Because I've also heard like bad bullpens equal good outings. Like is that just always the opposite is true?
Not, I mean, not always, but I mean, I've definitely heard that theory of I wasted them all in the bullpen, or I don't know how I pulled that off because I didn't throw a single strike in the bullpen. Uh, Funny story, Clayton Richards in San Diego. Uh, he would talk about that sometimes when he would have a really good bullpen before the game, he would not pitch well. So there was one start I remember he Darren Balsley will walk out to the bullpen and he'd always walk by and we'd try to guess how many warm up pitches the starter threw and just if we hit it on the head or whatever. So we're walking out one day and Balsley's got a big grin on his face walking behind Clayton and he goes, "No one's guessing this one." And I was like, we all take our guess and he goes, "Nope." Clayton threw one glove side fastball, nutted it, said, "I can't get better than that, so we might as well go." And I was like, no way. So I didn't see it, but that's what Ball said happened was he just because like I said, he talked about if he threw too many good ones, he wasted them all. So he got on the mound and he threw his first one. He called the glove side fastball down, hit his spot, catcher didn't move his glove. He's like, "Let's not waste them. Let's go."
Sometimes it's all it
So
takes. That's
yeah,
fantastic.
I wish I could recall how the game went, but I can't. I just remember balls walking in with the big grin on his face, knowing none of us were gonna guess how many pitches Clayton just threw. So
This is the best. I've like become friends with so many pitchers on through this podcast, and I love learning about just like the little things like that, like bad bullpen equals good start, or just like
yeah,
I think somebody was on here saying that like veteran hitters when they're guessing or they're trying to incorrectly cheat the pitches, if they know it, they'll like half-heartedly finish their swing. I think Stanton's done that a bunch where like if he's like, "Dang it, you got me," he'll just like half-heartedly finish.
yeah.
Are there little quirks like that that you've noticed throughout all your years of pitching?
Yeah. I mean, I remember. I think it was Melky Cabrera. I think it was. I threw him. This was back in my curveball days. I threw him a curveball on top of the plate, and he swung through it and gave me the old thumbs up out of the mound. Just like, all right, but um, yeah, I like I said though, I'm such a high intensity competitor that when I am competing, there's one thing on my mind and it's whatever JT's telling me in my head. And I don't pay attention to too much. The other day I had my 500th strikeout and struck the kid out. They throw the ball around the horn and Harper starts yelling for the ball and I was like taken back like what's going on? Like I just in the
Oh,
moment, just worrying about what's going on. I have no idea what's going on around me, and that's what works for me. So I just keep blacking out, I guess.
how many milestones do you think you've missed because of that?
I don't know. I again one day I'll sit down on my porch and pull up my baseball reference page and look back and see what I did. But Uh, doesn't matter until it's done. So we'll
You have
see.
your first strikeout ball, I'm assuming, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I had my debut, my first strikeout. Got my jersey for my first win. Got my first save ball. But yeah, I mean, obviously I missed my 100th punch out milestone, my 300th. I missed all of them to 500. So, but yeah, it was cool to see, and uh, thanks to the clubby for being on top of that.
All right. Last thing I wanted to talk to you about was your All Star game experience. Because after this is your ninth year in the big leagues, right?
Yeah, my ninth season. Yep.
Yeah, ninth season. After 9 seasons to finally make an All Star team, what did being selected and what did that whole experience mean to you?
Yeah. Obviously super honored. It was cool to be voted in by the players. To have your peers acknowledge what you do, especially as a middle reliever, so to speak. Not necessarily a closer. So you know, the game's changing. I've always laughed at the the save stat. And don't get me wrong, it's impressive what closers have done. And there's so I've always said, like, you can win games in the sixth and seventh. You can stop yourself from losing games in the sixth and seventh. But at the end of the day, too, like what Josh Hader does, throwing the ninth inning, no matter who it is, like he's not getting the matchup to fit him. He's just throwing the ninth. Like that's impressive in its own right, just as much as what we do here in Philly with the matchups lefty righty. Um, like Jeff Hoffman has won us plenty of games in the seventh inning. So there's a uniqueness to it both, but I think the league's starting to recognize that. And when the top of the order comes up in the eighth, that's the ball game usually. So it was cool to be like I said, acknowledged by my peers, and yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. Fastest 48 hours of my life.
Wait, so as a middle reliever, is that kind of looked down upon in the eyes of baseball people? Like, is that a thankless job?
I mean, when you just look back on like the history of the All Star game, if you're a relief pitcher in there, you're usually a closer. Like if you go back to 2018, and this isn't, I'm not saying Brad Hand was not an All Star. He was definitely an All Star and should have been an All Star. But his setup man, Kirby Yates, that year was the best reliever in baseball going into the break. He had a .8 ERA, had like 16 holds, and yeah, Brad had 20 saves, but 16 of them he got because Kirby kept it there. And again, Brad was an all star. Kirby should have been an all star too, but he just wasn't because he didn't have that fancy S in his box score. And like I said, the game's changing to where I mean, you see, who was it? Robert Stevenson got paid by the Angels, and he's not. He got paid like a closer in his career. He's not a closer. He maybe had some saves and did a closing role for a little bit of time, but he wasn't a closer, so to speak, like Wade Davis and Greg Holland were going into free agency. But he got paid dang near just like him. So I think the game's starting to recognize it, and it's cool to see.
That's a great point about the All Star game roster. It's all closers and starters for the most part. Like that, the
Yeah.
whole of their starting and like a whole of their pitching people is all just that. So,
Well,
yeah,
same
yeah,
with reliever of the month because Jeff Hoffman should have been the reliever of the month a couple times too, but doesn't get enough saves.
yeah. It's a good point. It's like yeah, it's just the vanity stats of
Yeah,
wins and saves. It's like I don't know. Look at check out some fielding independent pitching every now and then. I don't know.
the reliever of the month one's been rubbing me wrong for a while. They should just call it closer of the month. Like just quit calling it the reliever of the month. The kid from San Diego, I'm gonna blank on his name, throws like the split changeup, whatever he's calling, or split cutter, whatever he's calling it. Can't remember it, but I think it was May or June. This kid had punched out the entire world, it felt like. But he didn't have any saves, and he's not National League reliever of the month. It's like, come on.
Have you ever been reliever of the month?
I'm a middle reliever, so what do you
Oh,
think?
I don't know.
So
Gotta
no, no.
we
But
gotta figure that out.
yeah, I mean, again, like a closer is very impressive, don't get me wrong, because I am getting the luxury of facing a pocket that fits my strengths. So they are using me in a key situation in the game, but it's lining up with my pocket, so to speak. So like they're it's yes. I don't want people thinking that I'm not saying closing. Closing is impressive. When
Yeah,
you show up for the ninth inning every night, no matter who it is, and you get the job done, it's a job in itself. But two, there's plenty of relievers out there that aren't closers that have won their teams lots of ball games.
absolutely. All right, my last question. The All-Star Game baseball card belt. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Where did the idea from that come from? And like, how did that all kind of come to be?
Yeah, so I can't remember what season of the Card Life it was on, maybe season 2 or 3. We did a segment with this guy who found a way to turn all of his junk wax into a business, and he was making sports card belts. And so, like I said, we did that like a year ago or 2 years ago. And then when I got named to the All-Star game, it just light went off in my head, and I was like, yo, I need one of those card belts for the All-Star game. So I reached out to Brandon, and Brandon is the producer of the Card Life. He jumped all over it, took care of everything. He sent out the cards, overnighted them to the card belt guy, and put it together in less than 2 days and shipped it out to me. And it turned out amazing.
They were all cards of yourself, right?
Yeah, so he did two belts. I wore one for the home run derby, and then I wore one in the All-Star game. And the one in the home run derby was just like a montage of cards of me in a Phillies jersey. So it was a bunch of different cards. And then the one I wore in the All-Star game was my 23 Series 2 card, but it was the parallels. So it was a different parallel of the same card all the way around, which was really, really cool. So yeah, they turned out great. Actually just got my Tops Now card from the All-Star game of the card belt. So now I'm gonna send him 20 cards to make a card belt of the card belt. So
Cardception.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So because it was an all-star game, I guess the uniform requirements are different than could you not wear that in a regular season game?
Honestly think I could wear it in a game, especially with some of the belts I see you guys wearing now. Like, I mean, some guys just wear crazy colors, so I don't see
Yeah.
why I couldn't wear some cards.
Are there like
So
crazy uniform restrictions that like or cleat? I feel like cleats are getting more and more cool now. I didn't know if there was like rules that you guys have to follow.
yeah, so it used to be pretty strict. Um, and by pretty strict, I mean you would get a letter in your locker about what code you broke or how much you're fined or whatever. But now they're a lot more lenient, and I think that's good because I mean that's going to grow the game. I mean, could you imagine if I wore a card belt every day and I don't know, we gave them away in random packs? Like that'd be cool. So I don't know, we'll play around with it, see what we come up with.
I feel like Bryce always has like the fanatic cleats, which is like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so. He did some PSA cleats the other day when we played the Yankees. He wore some like card collaboration Harper cleats that were really cool. He actually hooked me up with a pair of the turfs of them, so that was sweet.
Love that. Do you have a
Yeah.
cleats sponsor deal with anybody?
Yeah, I wear Adidas. I wear
Okay.
Adidas on field. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right. Dude, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for your time.
Or
I always enjoy catching up with you. So best of luck down the stretch, and hopefully we'll see you guys play a little bit longer after the regular season ends.
right on. Appreciate you.
All right, man.